Hey, it's Chris Kinger's happy birthday day today. He's 52, and I'm going to buy him a new haircut.
I'm Chris King, and I am not 52. I am 35 years young.
No
today.
way!
Young
No
today.
way! No, you're an old man.
No, it's true. I'm young. What can I do?
Are you 35 today?
I'm 35
no
today.
No flipping way.
I know it's deceiving because my girls age me about 10
Yeah.
years every year.
I've never seen you without a beard. I wonder how much younger or older you look without the beard.
You don't want to see it. You know, we might have to dig through the archives, but
you'd
be like, oh, who's that 18-year-old walking around?
Hey, Lance Phillips, Chris King with you for the gloves are off. Will that be in our archives of you without a beard?
You have some film of it here. Yeah,
I've seen some archive stuff with your hair, and it's wild. It's like, it's way down, way down.
Every day it's like this.
We're super excited because we can actually talk about the Olympics now.
Yes.
Like, of course, because we don't have broadcasting rights, we weren't able to discuss the Olympics, but we did come up with some good sporting events from last week.
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
I thought they were pretty cool. And we actually have a guest on this week, two guests, the Ree boys, as we called them, a couple of Rees, hopefully, Sam Ree and Todd Ree. So Sam went to Pyeongchang for cross-country skiing. I did a story on him earlier. Super excited to have these guys on. Very
interesting, their story and how they got into it, yeah.
It's definitely, it's great to have them on board. And there's also some big news coming from Lakeland College, Chris King.
I wonder what that could be
at Lakeland. It could be the women's wrestlers volleyball team. And we're pretty excited about what's happened with them over the weekend. The ACAC championships over. The winners, the wrestlers, again, for the second straight year, destroyed Briarcrest 3-0. Ray Sigurdsson, tournament MVP, but Kinger, is there one person, one thing that is the most valuable asset to this team?
Okay, the coach answer is no. There's not one thing. The biggest thing, I think, experience. Last year they were an underdog in the tournament. They came through, won the ACAC. They were an underdog in CCAA. When you have that experience of winning a national championship in ACAC, you now know in the semifinal against Red Deer when they were down, they came back all the way to win that. So I think that was the one biggest thing.
Coaching.
That was my number 2 on the list.
We have, you could learn something from this. I'm just kidding. No, Austin Dyer has done a fantastic job coaching this team. Look, I've seen him, and I don't like the term you were out-coached by this coach, but I've seen him make adjustments that other coaches have not made, don't make for whatever reason, whether they don't know to make them or however this works. But Dyer is doing things, little adjustments within the game that gives his team an advantage when they currently don't hold one. We saw it at the ACAC tournament. What they did against Samantha Zacharias, who's the reigning ACAC Player of the Year, second straight year if I'm not mistaken. She was a non-factor in the first set of that championship match. It's coaching. What he has done is really impressive with this team.
And I think there's a couple of things on that coaching side. I had a talk with Coach Dyer about film. I think Lakeland's team is ahead of everyone else on how they use film in our conference for this level.
That's possible.
But another piece of not only using film, but having the girls be able to implement what they need to change in the game or out of the game. So it's one thing for Coach Dyer to come up with the game plan and show you all the film. It's another thing for this old veteran team to say, oh, okay, we're going to change how we block here and be able to put it into play.
You know, what he's done against some of the other teams' benchmen, that's kind of henchmen for men, is impressive. The other thing I really quickly want to touch on is the fact that the mental toughness of this team is unbelievable. Look, they were down 2 sets to none to Red Deer. To come back, the mental fortitude it takes to come back and win 3 straight is unbelievable. Briarcrest couldn't do it.
No, Briarcrest folded like a cheap tent.
Folded like a cheap
tent. The Olympics have came to a close, as Lance mentioned. Yes, they were on for the past 2 weeks. Lance, what was the one defining moment for you that really sold the Olympics?
Man, this is tough. This is really tough. Like, one defining moment. I have got to say that the defining moment for me was 11 months ago. Mark McMorris was nearly dead.
Yep.
Nearly dead. And he came out and balled on the slopes and won bronze in men's slopestyle, snowboarding slopestyle. That is unbelievable. He's in a hospital room with multiple broken bones, a punctured lung, a broken jaw, ruptured spleen, internal bleeding, and he does that 11 months later.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and
it's beyond unbelievable. It's probably the most inspiring thing I've seen in a long time.
And I think that's
besides your hair.
Yeah, it's inspiring every day. But that's the these about the Olympics. There's so many stories like this. When I think
crazy.
about it, there's 3 or 4 things. You know what? I actually think our men's hockey winning bronze is one of the greatest stories. These are guys that thought their careers were over. They're playing semi-pro hockey in Russia and Sweden, and they get to be on the ice and win an Olympic bronze medal and take it home to their families. Something that they dreamed of as a little kid, but usually by the time you're 20, you realize, hey, I'm not Sidney Crosby. I'm not going to be on the Olympic team.
Wojtek Wolski had a broken neck. He had a broken neck before he went out to play for that Olympic hockey team. Okay, that's inspiring. The fact that Kim Boutin, who was given death threats from speed skating, days later came out to the same track and won a bronze in 1,500 meter short track speed skating. And she cried beforehand. She was crying beforehand because of her anxiety of going out there after receiving death threats.
And you talk about mental toughness. You can't get tougher than that to be able to go and perform.
Tough as nails.
Yeah.
Tough as nails. You got anything else?
I got one other thing. Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer, Canada loves them. Their love story, non-love story, but the way that they performed, which could be their last performance, just really brings the country together. And I think, I'm not a figure skating guy, but when you watch that, you're like, that's intense.
Why didn't he propose to her?
What
are you doing, man? What are you doing here? They're the perfect couple. I was captivated by that.
Yeah.
And I even tweeted, I'm like, where is the proposal coming here?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's unbelievable. NHL trade deadline, the 3 p.m. Eastern trade deadline has come and gone as of Monday. There was a few winners in this. Some big names moved. The biggest name in Erik Karlsson not moved out of Ottawa, but Kinger. Who's the biggest winner as far as teams are concerned in this year's NHL trade deadline?
Yeah, I think it's Steve Yzerman and Ryan McDonough.
You like the Lightning.
Tampa Bay getting stronger, getting an elite top 4 defenseman. Steve Yzerman doing a good job of trading his assets while giving up some, but making sure his team has a chance to win not only the Cup for this year, but maybe the next couple of years. So I really like what they did there. They were my big winner of the NHL trade deadline.
Okay, that's all fine and dandy. I had trouble, but I picked one above the others, and it's the Winnipeg Jets. And most people are like, oh, yeah, okay, so they got Paul Stastny. Big deal, okay? But Paul Stastny was fantastic for the Blues in last year's postseason. Here's the real kicker about this. Paul Stastny had a no-trade clause. He waived that no-trade clause to go to Winnipeg. What is that telling you about Winnipeg? It's telling you that is a cup contender, that a guy waived his no-trade clause to go to, and people, obviously, players are enjoying playing there. They're sold out every night. It's a packed barn. It's energetic. Look at... This will be the start of more players wanting to go to Winnipeg. If you got one player that waives his no-trade clause, other guys will start to do the same, especially if this team contends for a Stanley Cup, which it looks like they will.
Well, and when you have that good culture like you do in Canadian cities, you want to play there where you get the media coverage, where everyone knows who you are and you're kind of a big deal, whereas in St. Louis, you're not as big of a deal. You're not as big of a deal. I also liked what Vegas did as well, just to touch on that. Adding Thomas Tatar, I thought that was a really nice add. Vegas obviously has 100 draft picks from last year's expansion draft, so them trading a first, second, and a third to get Tatar, I think, could be huge for them down the stretch.
What if he comes with free halibut? Or oh, that's tartar. Sorry, that's tartar. Yeah, sorry. I thought he might come with some free fish. I want to quickly mention the Sharks as well. Look at the Sharks got Evander Kane, who's a pretty decent player, but he doesn't act like an adult all the time. But he's going to a dressing room where it's full of adults, and it's a good cohesive dressing room, and they will sort this guy out. Here's the biggest part about this. If they sign this guy next year, they have to give up a first-round pick. If they don't, they give up a second-rounder. This guy's not staying with the San Jose Sharks. So they're only going to have to give up a second-rounder to get this rental player that could put them over the edge. Yeah, almost a trick clause on that. I really like the way they did that. And locker rooms are huge. The MLB is implementing some new rules this season. The biggest one, the change of pace of play. Lance, which of the 6 or 7 rules that they're trying to implement do you like the best? Mound visits. Yes. Mound visits, baby. It's finally, we've pulled back on mound visits. They're only going to be allowed 6 mound visits. And this is not like, if the catcher goes out, that's a mound visit. Yeah. The third baseman decides to come over, that's a mound visit. Pitching coach goes out, mound. And they're only going to be allowed 6 per 9 innings. This is great stuff. Down from 60 a game. Yeah, they're going to give 6. Yeah. And I would 10%. I would love to see it even be like 3 or 4, but like, I can't think of how many times like I watched Tulo go in and talk to the pitcher. Probably 5 times a game himself. Right. Like he'll run in there. I think that's absolutely the biggest one. It's key. Like, the one thing about baseball, and it's been said numerous times, is that it's too slow for kids who have a 15-second attention span. Now, I don't think we're going to get baseball games that are down to 15 seconds. No. But this is a great start. Yep. And with the rule last year they implemented with reviews
Yes.
You know, it's
one foot in the box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're doing all the things and they're moving in the right direction here.
So I also like that they cut it down to now 2 minutes and 5 seconds between innings, or the inning breaks,
right,
which is huge for television. Now has got to cut down their TV timeouts. But now the players can actually get on the field, warm up, and you're straight into play. There's no walking around. Like when you're at a live Jays game, you sit there, the guys walk out, you could go grab 3 or 4 beers. Now that's going to be the problem for me is I can't go get a beer and come back.
No, you're going to miss an entire inning.
You're going to miss an inning, but the play's fast, right? Like the game's going to go. So I think they're going to shave down a lot of time. Ultimately, I would love to see that pitch clock come in. I would love to see that.
So this begs the question though now, will they implement beer taking? Can you take 20 beers at a time? So that you know, then you basically have beers for the whole game. I mean, that's an important rule that needs to be implemented.
Yeah,
here.
and the people in my section can't show up, so I can set the beers down.
Yes. So just multiple chairs with beers. So when the beer guy comes along, what has he got there? Has he got like a pallet jack that goes up a ramp that is just full of beers? Because he's going to run out.
All tall boys. Yeah.
And they'll have to send, instead of one beer guy up and down the aisle, they'll have to send like 6, right? just like a train of beer dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No question about it. All right. Let's move to Zaza Pachulia, who was back at it again this week when he fell, apparently unintentionally, on Russell Westbrook's knee. It was fully intentional. If you've watched the review, you know it was fully intentional. And this is not his first time doing this. The NBA is not going to give him any supplemental discipline, but is it time, Kinger, that the league does something about this guy?
Yes, absolutely yes.
You can't allow this to go on.
You can't have this happening. You can't have guys, this is just like hockey. There's guys that are physical or enforcers in hockey. He's a physical player. He's also slow and not that useful. So when you see a guy on the ground and then a 7-footer go put his hands up and fall down directly on a leg, that's intentional. He needs to be fined and suspended, and this type of BS needs to stop. Like it just, you don't want your star players being hurt for the whole year. It just can't happen.
And like I said, we've seen this multiple times out of him without any discipline, no discipline whatsoever. And you, like you mentioned, what happens if he falls down on Westbrook and he tears a ligament in his knee because of that?
Yeah,
he's out for the season and part of next season.
Yeah, well, you know what? If that actually happened, then the NBA would actually do something about it because it hurts one of their stars in their ratings.
You can't wait. It's like it's like having a horribly dangerous intersection. You know what? We're going to wait till someone gets murdered at that intersection or the car accident before we put lights there.
And that happens, unfortunately.
I know it happens, but I'm saying it can happen. You have to be proactive, and the NBA in this instance is not proactive. They're very reactive with this guy, and it's time to take a stand and say, we're not going to tolerate that. We don't care if it's our star players. We don't care if it's the guys that come off the bench. You can't do this kind of crap.
Yeah, and you have to protect your stars first off, but you have to protect the whole league as an entire. So
and set a precedent here. Like, you know, tell players that, hey, this isn't going to be allowed. It's like the flopping thing.
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing.
And they started enforcing that and giving T's. So that should have been a T in my opinion, or you change it into a T.
If you really want to, and I've said this before about NHL suspensions, if you really want this out of the game, he's ejected right on the spot.
Yeah.
You review it, and he's ejected right on the spot. Yeah, there'll be a whole bunch of whining, but you're going to have players who are like, yeah, I think I'll think twice about that next time.
Yeah, for sure. Laura Ingraham made waves over the last couple of weeks as she took aim at athletes using their platform to speak their political views. Lance, should players be allowed to speak their political conscience on their platform, or should they, as she said, shut up and dribble?
Shut up and dribble is one of the most offensive things I've ever heard in my life. It is unbelievably offensive.
Yep.
And if I'm Fox,
I was just going to say it was on Fox.
Pardon?
It was on Fox.
I'm firing her ass so fast.
Yep.
You look at you and I could talk about politics if we want.
Yeah.
Jim, our camera guy, could come right out here and we could start talking politics. If we can do it, why can't they do it?
Yep. Well, because they have the platform, so it makes them look bad. That's the problem, right?
It doesn't matter. Yes, 100% to answer your question, yes, they should be allowed to talk politics. If they want to talk politics, I don't have a problem with that. They have a platform that they can do it, so be it.
And I think what we're seeing in the U.S. right now is what's going on with their political system is, let's be honest, not great. But you see guys like LeBron, Popovich, Kerr, all these guys now stepping forward and saying, hey, we don't stand for this. This isn't America. And now that the pushback's becoming more on the Trump administration.
And Fox, let's make no mistake, Fox is heavily conservative.
Yes.
Heavily conservative. Yeah. So they're going to lean to Trump every single time. But you can't say to people, shut up and dribble. Yeah. To me, it's borderline racist is what it is. It's
100% racist. There's no question around it. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
She's making a comment on a league that's 90% Afro-American. Like, there's no way. And she took the shot at the best player in the league.
Right.
At LeBron.
You can't allow that kind of stuff to go on.
Yeah, I just don't know why people think that these guys get paid a ton of money. They get all the media attention. They do have a mind. They do think. They're pretty smart guys. They're pretty good with their money. They should be allowed to speak.
You can't. It's like taking away. It's like taking away their freedom of speech, essentially. Right? Oh, you can't talk about that. Like, give me a break. Yeah. You can talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, you're a good athlete, but you're not allowed to talk about anything important. That's it.
Coming up on the other side, it's Albert. He's full. I mean, he's fully full. We got some good stuff.
Some good ones this week.
We're back, and the gloves are still off.
Albert joins us, and he is loaded up, baby.
It's good to go.
Now, listen, I know, Kinger, that there's one sitting at the very front of this bird's beak that you have been just pining for a while now.
I've been waiting for this one.
You have been, because we haven't been able to show it because of the Olympics.
Yes.
It's time.
All right. I'm laughing right now before it's even on. Athlete swag at the athlete swag.
Game done.
Game done changed.
Like, I don't know where you get the power to do this.
It is unbelievable how strong he is.
No, it's insane. Like, where you get the power to do that is unbelievable.
No, I did look this guy up. He's got some heavy parkour.
Look at the guy in the escalator. He's like, what?
Could you imagine if you're in a mall and you saw that? Just a dude just...
It makes me want to give it a go.
Hey, there's
my arm would... something would break. Not a chance.
Could you just fall off and there's just an arm stuck on the escalator going up with some entrails?
We should try this. You at West Edmonton Mall, I'll film.
Oh my word. Hey, guess who it is? Corporal Matthews.
Oh, shocker. Shocker.
Okay, mother, despite constant jinxing by war reporter Romanuk, the Scandinavian ginger save god turned away all swipes by the ferocious Floridian felines. Captain Luongo deserved a better fate. I hope his battalion has the consideration to make him a cucumber sandwich for his effort. AM. I can't get enough. Let me read that again. The Scandinavian ginger save god.
Male in the beak.
I think that your section should be just all his tweets. That's all.
They're good. They're good. I mean, and throughout the NHL trade deadline, he had some real kickers in there.
I didn't have him. My icebreaker was popping up. It was knocking everything off.
Good stuff.
Southern Sports Nations. That's So Sports Nation. This Korean gentleman just won the entire Olympics.
Glasses on glasses on glasses on glasses.
And he looks super chill.
Look at the little girl. It must be his daughter or something beside him. Like, she's like waving, like, I got a teddy bear. And he's like, just simple Mr. Cool, right?
I hope that's his sister, because that guy looks like he's 15.
Hey, there's mail.
He does.
If he's got a daughter, there's issues.
Okay, this is, I have ranted in a podcast I do about how terrible Barstool Sports is, okay? It's awful. But the odd time, you get some gold like this. This comes courtesy of Barstool, but it's fifth year, wide right. Just listen to what the guy says.
It's in his head. It's in your forehead.
It's in his head.
Take it out of your forehead.
It's in his head.
I need to step back.
No, it's not in his head. It's well in his head.
Like, does that, okay, so.
That sounds like me hitting a golf ball.
It does. But is that dart touching brain matter?
It's through skull.
There's no way that, like, if you pinch your skin, what do you have there? Like maybe an eighth or a quarter of an inch at most, right? At most of flesh before it hits the skull. So guaranteed that dart is through the skull.
It's crazy that Buddy just takes that in the side of the face and just turns around and walks.
Like nothing happened.
The only guy that's reacting is the guy holding the camera.
First of all, he's got his hand up there like, okay, we're going to do this because I want to see. I think they were throwing it.
Yeah, they're trying to get in between, I think.
His fingers or something. And they did get it between his fingers. They didn't hit his hand. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
For the record, those are a bunch of guys you don't want to hang around with.
Yeah, those are non-hangers.
Bruce Arthur at Bruce Arthur. The Russians' team visit to the White House will be very special. You think?
Olympic athletes in Russia win gold, going to the White House.
They probably got a special room in there, actually.
Okay. So the original tweet here was Chris Sedenka, at Chris Sedenka. Hey, so he's obviously an American talking about the women's hockey game. Hey, at Canada, what else would you like us to beat you in today? And Scott Morrison replies, gun control.
That's what they call mic drop.
It had 100,000 likes and just over 28,000 retweets.
That's a mic drop.
That is.
Yeah.
You can't even respond to that. I'd probably just delete my Twitter account right on the spot.
Game. That's game right there. Doug Smith from the Raptors at Smith Raps. Another very important layer to the man that is DeMar DeRozan. Now, this tweet I actually sent to all my girls today, emailed it and texted it to them, and my coaching staff. I just thought this was an amazing article, and we've talked about this a little bit, the mental health. Everyone deals with this at some point, and some people deal with it every single day. It's so important that articles like this and someone on his stage gets out and talks about this type of thing.
I was caught off guard.
Got mail.
I was like, whoa, this is gonna. I got to read this, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's something I didn't expect to see. But yeah, that's good, man. Good for you. That's good. Okay, this is unbelievable. So Brooks Peck at Brooks DT at Barca Girona match with Caesar and Jose. I'm assuming it's Richard from Colombia. Jose Richard is blind and deaf, so he's the gentleman on the right. But Caesar helps him follow matches with a wooden board that serves as the pitch and a sign language system they devised by themselves. Incredible to watch is an understatement. Like, it's amazing. So he's watching the game. So Caesar is watching the game, and he helps Jose by moving his hands. And that sign language is unbelievable.
It's crazy, and there's like a touch of the face there and everything going. It's the coolest tweet I've seen this year.
Yeah, it's. How long does it take to develop something like that? Is what I like to know.
I have no idea. Well, that's just how much time do those guys spend together? I got to think that takes a couple of years, and they would have to go to thousands of soccer games to get that under control. I think it's the coolest thing that they could do that for him, so he can feel what the soccer
Wouldn't
game
you love
is
to
like.
know what is he feeling? What is he experiencing when that is happening? Right? I mean that's what I'd like to know.
It's amazing stuff, and hopefully the joy he gets from following the game.
No joke.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
Welcome back. We had a tweet here that we didn't get to that we have to hit on because he is what do you call
The
him?
mayor of Lloydminster.
The mayor of Lloydminster. That's correct. It's
Mr.
Ryan Slapsky. So Ryan's always tweeting in.
Yeah.
He is literally, and I've said this before, as a sports reporter when I kind of moved here, he's been key for me in keeping me updated on things that are happening. He's always sending stuff out. I don't know what I'd do without the guy, frankly. And he's just a good dude.
He's a good dude, and he's involved in every sport in the community.
Everything. Like if there's a sport going on, Ryan Sklopsky has some involvement with it at some point. So this one he sent out, and this goes back to a Bleacher Report video. I'm sure at King or Chris, at Lance Phillips TV, at Josh Ryan Sports, at Gloves TV, a lot of ats, have fans that have that reaction when they cross paths at Lakeland College, and you can see the kid nearly passes out from the hand slap. That does not happen, okay? That absolutely doesn't happen. If anything, it's the opposite. It's like, there's that a-hole again.
Yeah, very, very rarely does that happen.
No.
I'll let you know if it happens.
It actually has happened to me once at the Civic. A gentleman came up to me at the Civic Center and said he said, I've always wanted to meet you. I said, that's awesome. Thank you so much. He says, yeah, I watch your show. And I said, hey, really appreciate you watching the show. Thank you very much. It's happened.
There you go.
It's actually the coolest feeling, right? Because you know there's people that watch the show and they appreciate it. That's not many, but they do.
That's what they call Mr. Big Time.
There are at least a couple of people out of the 7,000 that watch our show that do like it.
Okay.
Let's get to fake letters. Now we have some letters here.
Yes.
Would you like to start or would you like me to?
Sure, you start. I'm new to this letters business.
Okay, so fake letters, if you don't know what fake letters are, it is basically letters that have come in and maybe they're real, but maybe they're not.
That's true.
Let's check out this one first. Dear Clippers, in the words of the immortal Pete Weber, and if you don't know who Pete Weber is, he's the bowling god who uttered this phrase 6 years ago yesterday. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? I am. Get it right. I think I did it in the right voice, too.
Yes,
Sincerely, Rustlers Women's Volleyball. That's
Yes.
a little punch on the Clippers there.
Yes. Little salt there.
Little salt in the wound for the Briarcrest Clippers.
Yeah.
How'd you like to be that Samantha Zacharias? You're the second straight year you've won the ACAC Player of the Year, and your team doesn't make it.
Yeah,
there.
and unfairly, you don't need to motivate our girls, and
No.
they got more motivated thanks to the CCAA. So
I also want to add, and I have beat this horse to a pulp, this dead horse, I've beat it down, that both those teams should be in the CCAA final. The Grand Prairie Wolves have no business being in that final. No business. They didn't even make the ACAC playoffs.
yeah. Well, they're the hosts. They get the entry, so we will see what happens. I think we know
They
what
didn't even
will
finish
happen.
500.
Yeah, it's not
And they'll
gonna-
get pumped in the first round.
So they
just
play.
for the record.
They play number one, so they'll
They
be.
play the Douglas Royals, and they're going to get stomped in the first round.
Yeah, well, we will see.
I
how
might cover
goes.
that game just for fun.
You should. All right, I have a letter here. Dear Mr. Boris. Boras.
Boris. Mr. Boris.
Borat almost. I know we discussed you getting me a major payday of $200 million or more over 6 or 7 years this offseason. Although I appreciate you putting together a 250-page book for all the teams, spring training has now begun, and I'm sitting at home playing catch with my wife. I just wanted you to know that I'd be just as happy with $100 million over the next few years. I think my family will be able to survive on that. I just really want to pitch. Yours truly, Jake Arrieta. Other than the Boris part, that was an amazing letter. I don't know why Lance is laughing.
Hey, Boris. Hey, Boris. He's a big Russian guy. That's true, man. What is going on here?
The rumor is that they've been asking for $200 million over
Yeah.
7. The market says he's more like getting 100 over 4 or 5 is where the market's at.
It is. These days of these
Yeah.
huge contracts very quickly have left. They're gone.
Yeah, and these old pitchers need to be throwing game simulations to get ready for the season.
Right. Here's another one that came in. This one's very intriguing. Zaza, next time you pull that crap on the court, I'm gonna go back to the locker room, talk smack, and do nothing on the court. Russ. Look at Russ. He talks a big game and he doesn't do anything.
No.
Again, like Kevin Durant, he doesn't do anything against these guys.
No.
He talks up like he's a big shot, and then he's probably the most passive-aggressive guy the NBA has.
Yeah, those passive-aggressive guys are hilarious. He is an angry little man all the time. All the time. He's mad about something.
I can't take the guy seriously.
No, and I hate watching him play basketball.
No, he's tough to watch.
Just for the
sure.
record. I have another one here. Dear Pierre Dorian, I just want to thank you for not trading me to a contender. I'm eager to continue to play for this franchise that is a hot mess. Nothing brings me greater joy than playing for an owner in a franchise that truly doesn't care at all about winning. Thanks for keeping me happy here in Ottawa. Eric Carlson.
I'm pretty sure Dorian made a quip that Carlson wanted to play out his career in Ottawa.
Yeah, not a chance. There's not a chance.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, we can sit here and say,
you're right.
there's not a chance, or yeah, he does. We don't know for sure. But when you look at all the signs and all the things that have gone on, especially between him and Melnick,
Yeah.
Eugene Melnick,
The current state of the union says not a
no way.
chance.
Yeah. When you look at that stuff, you think, how on earth could this guy want to play in Ottawa for even one more minute?
Send him to Winnipeg.
Eugene Melnick has created a massive rift with players and with fans. Okay, I got one more I want to get to.
Send it.
To our beloved Junior A Bobcats, we know you're struggling right now, but we have faith in you. You will be one of the very few Lloydminster hockey teams to be involved with playoff hockey, and we need you to win. What can we do to help? Pack the Civic, bring noisemakers, paint Bobcats on our chests, streak on the ice, or sacrifice a Wolverine? Just tell us. We've got your collective backs, the people of Lloydminster.
Ooh, that's my favorite letter yet.
It's true. It's true. They're one of the few teams that are going to make the playoffs.
They made playoffs. And to get into playoffs, you have to do some work. And now that you're there, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Unfortunately for the Bobcats, they've lost 5 straight. They can't finish higher than 6. And Bonnyville's nipping at their tails. They're right there. They're 3 points back. Bonnyville's had a struggle too. So it looks like the Bobcats and the Wolverines are going to butt heads.
Hey, trust in the Cats. Trust in the Cats.
And they went 3-3 against the Wolverines. They've got a good chance. They just need to find that, what happened over the early February.
Swagger.
The swagger needs to come back.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
Welcome back. Lance Phillips, Chris King with you, and a couple of Rees. Sam and Todd joining us. We've talked about Sam before, about skiing in Gangwon Province in South Korea, and we're glad to have you, finally. And I know you've had a lot on the go since you and I got together to put a little piece together on that skiing. Let's start with Gangwon. What was that experience like? Just let's get it out there.
Oh, it was awesome. 10 days in the future Olympic facility. It was amazing, yeah.
And so when you were there, were you skiing the course that they're skiing, or were you skiing a different course?
Yeah, we were exact same, they were sort of testing out the new Olympic courses.
Okay.
And so all the distances we did, I think were eventually going to be used for Olympic races. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Todd, you and I talked before Sam left about how you manage this as a father, your kid going to the other side of the world. So how did you manage it as a father? Was it more stressful than you imagined? Was it less stressful?
Actually, it was. I would say it was actually less stressful.
No way.
We were excited. We knew most of the group. We knew the chaperones, the adults that went along with them, and we were quite excited for the opportunity. So, I know this current political situation is a bit testy.
Yeah.
But we believe that the governments of Alberta and South Korea certainly wouldn't allow these young athletes to travel to a space that they thought was dangerous. So,
could you do that as a father?
I don't know if I could, but we hosted a Korean team for basketball, and it was one of the coolest things ever to have that interaction. And I'm not at that stage where I got to make the tough dad decisions yet. I'm early on in my dad career.
Now, we were talking before we started this segment about there were some skiers from Alberta who would have placed in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yourself included.
We compared our times to the women's 15K skiathlon, and actually, one of our athletes won the under 20 race, or under 24, something like that, and he would have placed 12th in the Olympic. Yeah, the Olympic women. Insane.
And where did you end up?
I would have been, I think, second last, but
you would have beaten an Olympian.
Yeah, still,
in the mix.
You would have beaten an Olympian.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel when you see that your son could have beaten an Olympian? What feelings does that conjure up?
It's interesting because when you tend to focus on the work that's necessary to get there, we talk a lot about the process, not the result. That's certainly a current theme in a lot of sports today, right? And of course, cross-country skiing is a long-term development program, and so it's nice to see the finished placings, but mostly you're proud of what they're doing while they're out there.
That's really cool.
And when you talk about the process, I think you hit it on the head. Every sport talks about the process. Sam, what's the process leading up? What does the training look like heading into? I know Lance got to cover it a little bit, but just for our viewers to know.
Yeah. Well, I usually do typically about four days a week ski training. If there's no 2 weekdays, so Tuesday, Thursday, and then usually 2 distance days on the weekend, if I don't have a race. And then there's also some strength training thrown in there and training camps and stuff like that. But usually during the weekdays, it's intensity, so intervals, stuff to get fitness level up.
Did you get a chance to check out any of the other Olympic venues while you were there?
Yeah, we went to the bobsleigh track, and they were actually going to take us down in the bobsled, but but then they eventually it didn't work because they had to fix the course or something like that. But that would have been really cool.
Well, I think it's cool that you got to see that as a young athlete, right? Something that every athlete aspires to. That's the biggest stage, right? The Olympics. So to be there, I think that must have been a motivation for you, seeing how that all kind of takes place building up to the Olympics.
And well, we also got to go into the opening stadium, or the opening ceremony stadium, and they toured us around. So like the head of security for the South Korean president actually toured us around the opening ceremony stadium. So we got to see like the World Leaders Lounge.
That's
stuff
amazing.
like that. Yeah.
That's really cool. How far do you want? Like, you obviously would like to compete in the Olympics one day. I would take it.
I mean, every athlete really sees that as a potential goal, but I mean, right now I'm just focused on national level races, and I mean, yeah, like if I don't know how much I have left to grow as an athlete, but that could be a goal. Yeah.
You're 16.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say quite a bit. Looks like you've grown enough. Looks like you're pretty tall. But you're going to add muscle, obviously, and endurance. So that's.
And so speaking of nationals, so you did some championships recently. You were at Western and Eastern Canadian championships. We'll start on the Eastern side in Ottawa. How did that go?
It went really well. Yeah, like it was a really big field compared to Westerns and even nationals, and I ended up around 10 in between 10th and 20th in most of my races. So yeah, it felt really good.
That's awesome. And how many competitors?
Around 40 or 50 per race. Yeah,
that's really cool stuff. Todd, what do you think allows Sam to succeed in cross country skiing? I feel like there's, as someone who did sports, I feel like there's a lot of parental help that goes along with that. It's not just all on Sam.
You know, I think a big part of it is his determination. He's gets excited about training.
That's cool.
He rarely ever misses a training day. He trains hard when he's out on the course. You know, of course, we come from a very small cross-country ski group. Mm-hmm. There currently are 3 athletes that compete, maybe 2.5. One has missed a couple races. The other one's his little brother.
That's awesome.
So he doesn't have a big training group to train with. What we're finding now, the Norwegians actually are starting to spend more time training on their own. They're finding that more distance, more low intensity, and more focus on technique can be done when you're skiing on your own, as opposed to racing with a whole gaggle of young or other athletes.
Interesting.
When you're worried about winning the race instead of focusing on technique. So, I mean, one-on-one coaching also pays huge dividends. Obviously, physically, he's a big kid, and that helps to some degree. But cross-country skiing is unique in that when you look at the spectrum of skiers, there can be giants and there can be very small people. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of going fast. And there's so many components. Of course, there's technique, there's strength, endurance, and then there's the whole mental part of it too. And we found recently or lately that he's really starting to develop more of the mental component over and above focusing on just the athletic strength component.
And that's such a huge part of sports, isn't it? You can attest that. You're a coach.
It's absolutely huge. I think in your sport, in an individual sport, I'm interested like what's going through your mind, because I've played sports like baseball where it's just you and a pitcher, but you're by yourself out there. What's going through your mindset?
Well, it's interesting because I think cross-country skiing would be one of the tougher mental sports because you just have to keep pushing and keep going. But even in training, like we were at a training camp in November in Lake Louise, and there was a guy from Lloyd. He's the goalie coach or the performance coach for Braden Holtby.
Oh wow!
And he came and talked to us, and it was a really great presentation. Like we sort of learned that we had to focus. Like even when you're training, you have to keep your mind on training and not to other things, and you just have to keep focused. And it goes the same for a race. Like you can't be thinking about what you're going to do after the race or what you did before the race. It has to be right then. And if you're going to pass that guy or stay behind him and draft him or anything like that,
Okay, so Eastern Canadian Championships. Tell us a little bit about what happened there.
It was
Western. Pardon me, Western.
Yeah.
We already talked Eastern.
That was out in Red Deer, and it was actually I'd say it was one of my best race weekends I've ever had.
Awesome.
It started off on a Friday with a sprint race, so it was around 800 meters, which is a little shorter than we're used to.
Yep.
But it was out on a golf course, sort of. So it was fairly flat, but there were a few little hills, and we started off with a qualifying, which is interval start. So you just straight time for 800 meters, and I ended up second in that. Amazing. And then they based our heats off of that. So I got seeded pretty high because I was the second qualifier, and then so we went through started the quarterfinals, and then I won that, and then the semifinals I think I was second, so I qualified to the final, the A final, and I ended up third. But the thing with that was it was like that last race was all really mixed up because like one guy started to lead, and then because it was a really technical course, there was lots of corners, so depending on what line you took, you could like pass people and end up. So I ended up third in that, which was really good. And
I guess so.
And it was really fun. Yeah, and then the Saturday was a 10-kilometer classic race. So that's usually distance isn't my thing, but I guess this race it was really good because I ended up second.
It is your thing.
Yeah, I guess so. And that was a really good race. I stayed with sort of the leading pack. There was a guy who was way out front, but we didn't really try to catch him. And then I beat the guys in the sprint on the last part. And then the Sunday was sort of a relay. So there was 3 guys. They based it off of our sprint qualification because they wanted Alberta to have the fastest teams. So each province sort of picked their fastest guys, and I was on the fastest Alberta team, and it was a 3-person relay, and it was only 3 kilometers, which was a little bit shorter than like we don't usually do 3K races. Right. And so our team ended up second, which was it was a really really fun race. Yeah.
Is that the first one you were able to? You were now obviously at Eastern or Korea, so you were there.
Actually, as it turns out, I was involved as an official in Western Canadians. I was chief of start for the sprint races, and then chief of course for the other 2 days.
Must have been exciting.
So I got up close and personal with
awesome.
all the athletes, and it's of course as an official you're not really supposed to show any emotion and cheer for your own kids, but they'll give you a little attitude.
That's like saying that's like asking a play-by-play broadcaster for a specific team not to cheer for that team, right? Yeah, no, not likely. Yeah. So Sam, what's next?
Well, yesterday I was at the Canadian Birkebeiner, which is like a sort of a longer Loppet style race.
Yep.
And then the next competitive race I have would be the Alberta Cup number 7, and that's in Red Deer, and it's also a skate sprint, so that should be good for me to get some points. Because throughout the year of Alberta Cups, you get points, and then you can qualify for teams like the Alberta Ski Team, and that's sort of my main goal in the next few years is to qualify for the Alberta Ski Team, because they actually right now the Alberta Ski Team is in Europe for 3 weeks doing training camps and races, so that would be a really nice goal for me. And then a few weeks after that is Nationals in Thunder Bay. And that's sort of what like all the athletes build up to.
Very cool.
In the end of the year. So that sort of marks the end of the season, but that's really what I'm training for now.
Can we in Thunder Bay, Todd?
No, unfortunately I don't think I'm going to make it.
Oh, jeez.
I'd love to spend a week in Thunder Bay.
I'll go with you. Take me with you. I'll go with you. Sure, I'd love to see that. Sam, continued success. I think it's really cool what you did, and it was neat getting a chance to come to Vermilion and hang out with you and your dad and put that piece together. And I'll look forward to seeing where you end up a couple of years down the road. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks very much for coming in, guys. Really,
Thank
you. Really appreciate it.
If you can't score, you might as well drop the gloves.
If you were to look at Sam Reed, would you guess he's 16?
No, I would guess he's in college playing basketball.
He's like 6'3".
Yeah.
Like he's a big kid. When he grows up,
Fills
he
out,
gets to be 18, 19 years old, he'll be a beast.
And it looks like he's still growing. He's big body on that kid.
Yeah, and he plays some soccer as well. And apparently he's a pretty decent soccer player. He's an athletic kid, but he comes from an athletic background. Right?
Yeah.
Interesting talking to those two.
Yeah, very very cool, especially the mental side of that. That was very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, you grew up in a house, so you're close with your dad, right?
Yep, you bet.
Even though he tells me otherwise, and I'm close with my dad too. But I think it's really cool when you get a chance to talk to athletes who have that close relationship with their parents, right?
Yep.
Look at as much as they say, you know, it's the kid that's doing the work here. There's a huge parental, as we talked about, there's a huge parental
influence,
and you know, backing there, and it's incredibly important. Okay, we're gonna do some What's Got You Fired Up. Kinger, you wanted me to start this time.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so what's got me fired up? I got to pull it up here because I got to make sure I don't get anything wrong on this one. What's got me fired up are people out there in the world who think that they know how athletes feel when games are over. So recently, Jocelyn Larocque from Team Canada Women, when she was given the silver medal after the Olympics, she immediately took it off and held it in her left hand. And she held it in her left hand the entire time, right through the handshake lineup with the U.S., did not put it back on. And we also had in the World Junior Tournament, the Swedish captain, and I'm trying to get his name right here, Elias Anderson, threw his medal into the crowd when they lost to Team Canada at the World Junior Tournament. And people are all over these athletes about this. Here's a couple. Leslie Ann O, at Leslie Ann Osh, very disappointed in Jocelyn Larocque's display of incredibly un-Canadian sportsmanship and being a poor loser, taking off her medal immediately after being presented with it. Carrie, at Young 007, in all my years watching the Olympics, I've never seen someone take off their medal immediately after getting it. Shame know you, Larocque. First of all, Carrie, nobody cares about your opinion because you can't even spell it, you can't even grammatically put it down on paper properly. It's shame to know you, and I'm pretty sure you don't know her and she doesn't know you, so it doesn't matter. Look at, you have no idea, unless you've been at the Olympics or you've been at a World Junior Tournament or you've been at this type of thing, you have absolutely no clue what these athletes are feeling, none whatsoever. So if an athlete wants to take off the medal that they won, not that you won, because you didn't win it, you had absolutely no part in it. If they want to take it off and they want to throw it into the crowd, they want to melt it right on the ice with a steel melter, or should they want to take it off and hold it in their hand, they have every right to do so because they worked to get there, not you. And you have no business commenting on it in a negative manner. If you want to get off your couch and quit being so lazy and actually do something with your life where you get out there and win those medals, be my guest. Until that point, stop making tweets about it and stop disparaging athletes who worked hard to get to where they are. I'm fired up about it, Kinger.
You are fired up, and I am with you on that. Especially the part when you talked about they don't know what it's like being there. I've received a few silver medals. I can't remember ever wearing it. When you're in these events, you're playing for gold. Our Team Canada national hockey team was playing for gold. That was a disappointment to those ladies. That they worked for 4 years for that. So, as you said, you're not in their shoes. You don't know what it feels like, and I think that's the biggest point is you can't judge when you haven't been there. Yeah. And you don't know the work.
Heather McLaughlin at Lady PNGN. Jocelyn Larocque is a disgusting athlete. No, ma'am, you are a disgusting human being.
Yeah,
I have no tolerance for that kind of stuff.
Each to their own. They didn't do anything that was derogatory or embarrassed other nations, right? She literally just took her medal off, which I'm totally fine with. I've got a silver medal. I put it in my pocket.
Been fine with it.
Yeah, it's fine. So, what's got me fired up is a little bit on the same topic. I don't know if I'm as hot as Lance was. Maybe.
I was hot, baby.
Hecklers in pro and amateur sports. I think there's a time and place for fans to yell and to cheer their teams, but one of the things that we're seeing popping up across the board is racial slurs, death threats, insensitive remarks. There's no place for that in sports. As a coach and a former athlete, they're just out there playing a game and doing something they love. And most of them not getting paid. Even NBA guys that are getting paid, there's no reason why they should be hearing these remarks. There's no place for it in a stadium or in society for that matter. Keep that at home.
I love heckling as much as the next person, especially at baseball games. I would punch somebody in the face if I heard racial stuff.
Yeah,
I would fight them in the stands, I swear to God.
Yeah, not a chance. There's just no place for that.